Okay, now, in this drawing, same coyote, still hunting. So what I want to do is to take in, again, the attitude. Taking, I want to feel his head down again. And I'm going to feel the flow. He's slightly going in. So when we're drawing something going in, what you're dealing with is the idea of essentially a cylinder taking and moving in space. So as I'm doing this, to get that feeling, I will start right away thinking about the volume. So I'm visualizing the body as a barrel. And at the same time, I'm taking and looking at the box of the pelvis, coming back, and think of the leg coming through. The crouching pose. Tail coming, I'm going to lift the tail up so that I can better take and draw the leg. Head's going down with through. The shoulder is pushed up. The far shoulder is carrying the weight, so it's sticking up. Scapula. This one's paw is lifted. Through. So this gives me a good shot at getting the thing. Now here I'm adding a ear that I can't actually see and coming through. Thinking of the structure, the eyes, the skull, the rather pointed face, and the back leg, I say is back holding up. It's got really the pivot, foreleg here versus the hind leg in front. Okay, so now that gives me a rough beginning point. Fairly loose. Now I'm going to come back in, I'm going to taking and feel the tail going over the surface. One of the points I think will become obvious here is that the minute you take and start to take and develop any kind of sense of form in your drawing, all of these would appear almost as random lines that I was using to get the gesture will take and start to disappear. Now here, thinking pelvis, feeling the leg muscles coming from there. I want to feel the waist going over the surface, coming around. I get the barrel of the rib cage. This is a rather well-fed coyote. I live in a coyote country, and I've never seen him this well-fed. Through, joint, in. His paw lifted. The back leg, or on the far side, I should say, not the back leg, is planted down. I want to feel the scapula, muscles pulling in. All of this stuff is pushing up. And as in the previous drawing, using the fur going over the surface, and we're actually getting a bristling of the hair of the neck. And we're going around. I feel the pull. And quite a bit of hair coming down here. And we're getting a profile shot of the face. So giving the cheek. And the straight button nose, up and down. Now in the hindquarters, we're coming through here. I'm really focusing first on the pelvis. We would feel it underneath here. Now we can't actually see it because what's happening here, he's got so much extra fur in here that the ischotuberosity is lost in the process here. But we can think of where the kneecap is over here. We can see the muscles. We get an indication of the muscles. We don't actually see very much coming through, picking up the heel. Now you can become apparent how all those lines I was using to start with have pretty much faded into the texture of the drawing itself. And through. Stretching the leg back. Now, I can't actually see this. So in other words, the tail in the photographs is hiding all this. So an indication. Now I'm going to do as I did in the last drawing, work with wash. I'm going to take in giving form to the drawing, going through. Now the wash using this way is a great tool for taking and drawing. And of course, if you using the water brush, which this is, I can take and very easily take and switch over to working with watercolor. If you happen to have a small watercolor with you, you can take and play with them. Okay, now, again, going back over, I will emphasize, I want to feel a little bit more of the sense of the belly. So I'm taking and pushing a stronger tone, come through, feel the volume, coming around. Do more to pull out the sense of the scapula, and then working with the tones going around the neck. Get into the ear, the dark hair coming through, and I say I'm adding the other ear. It wasn't visible. Through. Okay, let's try another animal. Now, this time I'm drawing the elephant. Okay, still look for the same things. Now, first you try to visualize the body type. So I'm starting out working with the pencil. This is a 6B graphite. Okay, so taking and very, very, very simply taking and, again, it's all about volumes. So I'm coming through. And this time I'm taking and looking at the really overall generalized shape of what the elephant looks like. And just is sort of this big blob. Now, as I go into this, I'm going to take and do everything exactly the same as I was doing with the coyote. I'm looking for structure, so I'm coming to think of the head, feeling the trunk coming down. We can look at the ears, blocking. It's a large, simple shape. Now, as we think of the leg is pushing up. So this is different, where on the dog types, or deers, what have you, the scapula takes a pattern that is basically a zigzag type shape. You're dealing with the legs. Elephant's different. The scapula is going straight up. And so often it looks like somebody wearing a baggy pants. You can take, so the line is vertical. The rib cage, again, is small in the beginning. And then it expands and builds up. Okay, then we come to the pelvis. The pelvis is different now in that the pelvis is very, very broad. So in this case, we don't see both sides of the pelvis. It's closer to actually human in terms of the openness of it. And I come through, I think with the leg coming out, follow through, knee coming down to the feet. The other one's coming through. You can see that it looks like actually somebody just walking. Okay? A large shape belly. Now there is a waist. We can barely see it, but there is a waist coming through. Arm comes down. We can feel the elbow coming down to the wrist, and then there are 5 fingers within that large trunk of a leg. You see, the biggest difference between the elephant and many of the other animals is the shape of the skull. And it's really, you need to take and look at actually what the skull is like. And we think of the eyes, same place. The nose comes right out from in the center, just like, well, not ours, nose doesn't come out above our eyes, but it's still between the eyes. And then we take and see the trunk, or I should say the tusks. This is a rather young elephant. Tusks are coming out. This is just part of the teeth coming out. And we feel the pull through. The mouth is underneath. So now I've basically sort of blocked in the elephant. So now I'm going to take and use what is often referred to as a broad pencil technique, where I use the side of the pencil to take long, strong strokes. So now, in doing this, I'm going to do the same thing I did with the wash of the coyote. I'm focusing on taking and defining the form, the volume. So now, in this case, we have has a rather large skull. So I'm going over the surface. Now you're going to see that the same thing applies. All of these random sort of what appear random lines to getting a gesture will slowly disappear. So now as I come back in, because I kept them very light to begin with, now I'm coming through and I'm going over the surface. I want to feel the eye socket. I'm going around. I'm putting the eyeball in the eye socket. I want to feel this, think of the barrel of the tusks. This really is a barrel. Comes through, going over, I want to go over the surface. I want to feel the side through. We can feel there's actually a hollow area in the center of the forehead. That's where the trunk comes out. That's the opening for the nostrils. And we feel the eye socket on the other side. And then we would take and start pulling down into the trunk. Now, before we do that, we need to pull the ear, just like all mammals, takes and comes out of the exact same spot. And this was a large error. The differences between your elephants, between African and Asian elephants, is the size of the ear, besides a certain hump that you will find. Now let's take and go through. This is a African elephant, and often you will see with the older elephants, you will see there'll be slits in these things. They get banged up, especially if you see the elephants in the wild. Now I'm coming through and getting the mouth underneath. The shape, the way I've drawn the eyes, is giving him a whimsical look. I think I will leave that.